dog had not moved from that spot in 4 hours. They thought it was behavioral. It was a warning they had no system to receive. It started on a Wednesday, not dramatically. Nothing in this story started dramatically. That was the entire problem. Otto was a 3-year-old Bernese Mountain Dog, 89 pounds, black and white and rust-coloured, who had lived with Tessa and Finn Calloway since before their baby arrived. He had always been even-tempered, the kind of dog people described as almost too calm, the kind who adjusted to disruption without visible protest. When their son Callum came home from the hospital, Otto had approached the baby blanket twice, sniffed it twice, and then returned to his bed by the fireplace as if this new creature was simply another fact of the household, to be incorporated without comment. That was who Otto was. Until Wednesday. Callum was 9 months old. Green shirt, those enormous cheeks babies have in their 9th month, a look of permanent mild surprise at the existence of the world. He had been spending his mornings on the playmat in the kitchen. Warm floors, good light, close to wherever Tessa was moving between counter and table and back. Otto had never done more than glance at him there. On Wednesday, Otto blocked the kitchen doorway. Not aggressively. He simply lay down across it at 8 in the morning and did not move. When Tessa tried to carry Callum in, Otto rose, stepped sideways, and blocked again. When she put Callum on the mat outside the doorway and tried to pass through herself, he moved aside immediately. The block was only for the baby. Finn watched from the hall. She looked at him. He looked at Otto. Have you ever seen him do that? Never. They attributed it to adjustment behavior. They had read about this. Large dogs occasionally developing territorial responses to new family members in specific zones. They moved Callum's morning time to the living room. Otto returned to the fireplace. Problem solved. Except that evening, Otto moved from the fireplace to the kitchen doorway and lay down there again. He was there at midnight when Tessa went for water. He was there at 6 when Finn came down for coffee. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. By Thursday afternoon, Otto had extended the block. Now it was the kitchen and the back hallway adjacent to the utility room. He would let Tessa and Finn through. He would not let Callum through. Not in arms. Not in the bouncer. The one time Finn carried the baby down the back hallway toward the utility room, Otto walked ahead of them, turned, and positioned himself across the hall with a pressure in his posture that was not aggression, but was not optional. He's resource guarding the warm zones, Tessa's mother said on the phone. He's decided those are his. You need to address this now before the baby is mobile. Tessa had been thinking the same thing. Tessa's mother had 3 dogs. Tessa had spent 9 years watching Otto. Tessa trusted this framework completely. This was the framework. This was the explanation. She was going to call the trainer Monday. On Friday morning, Tessa smelled something faint in the back hallway. Not strong. Not the obvious sulfur addition that gas companies put in natural gas for exactly this reason. Something fainter, older. She stood at the hallway entrance and tried to locate it. It wasn't there when she turned her head. She decided it was the old carpet. At 10:15, Otto picked up his water bowl and carried it to the front door. He set it down on the mat and looked at Tessa. She had seen him do this once before, 2 years ago, during a heat wave, when his water was warm. It was 62 degrees in the house. She called Finn. He came home in 40 minutes. They both stood at the back hallway entrance, and Finn said he smelled something, and Tessa said she thought it was the carpet, and they looked at each other and called the gas. The utility crew arrived at 1 o'clock. The technician with the detection equipment walked the back hallway and utility room and did not say anything for 30 seconds. He said, "How long have you been living with this?" The microfracture in the gas line behind the utility room wall had been leaking for what the crew estimated was 5 to 7 days. The crack was inside the drywall, invisible to any inspection. The concentration in the enclosed utility space had reached a level the technician described as requires immediate ventilation and evacuation. Not explosive, but a prolonged exposure for an infant at floor level, capable of causing oxygen displacement, with consequences he listed in clinical language that Tessa did not fully process until later that night. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us below. These stories deserve to be heard. Dogs detect natural gas compounds at concentrations thousands of times below human sensory threshold. The smell that Tessa had noticed on Friday morning and attributed to the carpet had been the same compound Otto had been detecting since Monday. His nose had been registering it in the kitchen and utility corridor for 4 full days before any human in the house could smell anything at all. The blocked doorway, the extended block to the hallway, the refusal to allow the baby, specifically the baby at his low floor level breathing zone, into the affected air. The water bowl carried to the front door, away from the compromised space. A communication in every language available to him. A family that received it in every language except the one he was speaking. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. The repair took 3 hours. The family spent that night at Tessa's mother's house. When they came home the following afternoon, the air was clean, the utility crew had cleared the space. Otto walked through the front door, down the hallway and through the kitchen doorway without stopping. He went to his bed by the fireplace. He lay down. Tessa put Callum on the playmat in the kitchen. Otto turned his head from the fireplace, looked at the baby, and looked away. His job in that space was finished. He had returned to who he always was, the dog who adjusted to everything without visible protest, who incorporated new facts of the household without comment. The dog who had spent 5 days building a wall they couldn't see to keep the baby away from the one no one else could smell. The next story is about a husky who started waking a family at 4 in the morning for 6 nights running, and what was building on the other side of the wall each time he did.